Something isn't right. I was halfway through my Monday overnight shift sitting behind the cashier's counter, eating a sandwich and mulling over the thought process that had led me to this unsettling conclusion. Something was bothering me, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Why am I so anxious right now? My subconscious had spontaneously latched onto some small detail inside the gas station that wasn't as it should have been, and I couldn't decide which was worse. The mysterious nagging thought that was going to town on the back of my mind like a horny Pomeranian in a pillow factory, or that something in this room was bad enough to still register on my weirdness scale. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I have seen some pretty bizarre things working at the shitty gas station at the edge of town. I've seen things that have legitimately made grown men lose their minds. I heard poor Arnold still won't leave his house without a security blanket and his emotional support falcon, Screecher. My point is, I'm probably a little desensitized when it comes to the stuff that the average Joe may consider abnormal. But this, whatever it was, had me feeling particularly troubled. But what was it? It was hard to put into words exactly how I felt. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately forgot whatever it was that you came in the room to do? It was only like that, only worse. It was like a mental itch I couldn't mental scratch, like a pain in a phantom limb. I was having a disconnect between my conscious and subconscious, probably yet another lovely side effect of my chronic insomnia. I tried to retrace the breadcrumbs. I'd had a thought that had bothered me. In fact, I wouldn't consider it an exaggeration to say the thought had shaken me to my very core. But I attempted to bring the thought to the front of my mind, and it simply wasn't there anymore. My brain was straight up glitching. The store phone rang, even though it was the middle of the night and I wasn't expecting a phone call, and most of the phone calls that came to the store were a deranged psychopath hell-bent on torturing me to death after I shot him in the stomach. I answered it because it's part of my job as a decent employee. Hello? The voice on the other end was deep and sonorous, like a narrator from a film trailer.
It's 4:30 a.m., Jack. Do you know where your children are?
Oh, hey Jerry. He dropped the fake voice.
Heyo, what's up?
Not much. Say, did you or Rosa change something before I came into work?
What do you mean?
The gas station seems off. I can't put my finger on exactly why.
Sounds to me like you have what the French call structure neurofronens pas correctement.
I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it's wrong. Did Rosa attempt to clean up the place? Did you rearrange the lawn gnomes again?
First off, I have never touched the gnomes. I did, however, light some incense and candles and try to realign my chakras. But then Rosa tried to spray some disinfectant to cancel out the smell because it was bothering her. But then the disinfectant hit one of the candles and we found out it was flammable and we accidentally made a giant fireball. Then we attached a lighter to the spray can and created a poor man's flamethrower and took it out front to try it out and torched a couple of watermelons. It was hella rad. Sorry, what was the question?
Never mind. Why are you calling?
I wanted to tell you that Coca-Cola used to make a coffee-flavored soda called Coke Black, and I just found an entire case of it. Also, I need to know what time I'm coming into work today.
I checked the schedule and informed him that he had the day off, to which he responded,
"Cool beans,"
and hung up. I took another bite of my sandwich and looked around the room for anything noticeably out of place, but nothing jumped out to me, literally or figuratively. Well, maybe this has something to do with the undeniable fact that the hallucinations have been getting worse. For a while, I imagined that things weren't really so bad. In foolishly optimistic moments, I even considered it a possibility that I was even getting better. But this past week has proven that this was not the case. Last week, it had proven that the hallucinations were back and here to stay. On Monday night, I noticed a strange black cloud hovering in the far corner of the store. It didn't have much of a shape or size other than it was an amorphous blob, bigger than a bread box but smaller than a blue whale. I watched it as it floated around and over the aisles, shifting its size and shape as if it were breathing, with smoky black tentacles that expanded from the hovering mass and grabbed down at the displays. It picked up a bag of potato chips, a can of sardines, and absorbed them into itself. and stopped and hung in the air in suspension over the doors. "Hey, you know you have to pay for that, right?" I called out, prompting the cloud to continue floating. It stopped next to the air vent on the ceiling, and it shrank and shrank, and eventually, its entire body disappeared through the metal slits of the ventilation airway. Under reason, I checked the box next to theft and penciled in a note, "Giant black cloud." Then I spent the next few minutes drawing a sketch of the thing to post on our "Do Not Serve These People" wall. Things weren't so bad during the daytime, or when I'm not alone, but during those long stretches when most people sleep, the world gets pretty weird. During my shift on Tuesday, I swear to God, I saw a small pack of lawn gnomes dragging a possum by the tail into the drink case, but by the time I made it around the corner and across the store, they were nowhere to be seen. Later that night, my old friend Tom came to visit. His pure white hair and frown wrinkles were really showing off just how old he was getting. He drank a cup of black coffee, and we caught up on all the things that had happened since he had retired from his job at the sheriff's station. The Christmas thing, Bo, the carnival. He asked how his replacement was doing. "Yeah, O'Brien's hanging in there. I think she's finally starting to accept that not everything at the gas station is going to make sense." "Huh," Tom grunted. "Takes a special kind of person to work at the gas station duty. The weirdness. The kind of thing that don't sit right with most people." I told Tom about the book I'm writing. "I wouldn't be too cavalier about that if I were you," he warned. "There are plenty of people out here who wouldn't exactly be happy to hear that you're keeping records." "Nah, it's okay. Most people just think I'm crazy." Tom tossed his styrofoam cup into the garbage and asked, "Now why would anybody think that?" Then the realization fell into place like a pallet of bricks. "Oh shit," I yelled. "Aren't you dead?" He stretched a little before responding, "Yeah, that's what they tell me." "Well?" "Well, what? What's it like?" Tom gave me a sad look and he answered, "Being dead's a lot like dreaming. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but most of the time, you don't even realize you're doing it." On Wednesday night, someone new came through the doors. He had a long, pointy nose, blue hair down to his shoulders, a pork pie hat with a red feather sticking out of it, and a faded yellow wife beater showing off a chest full of bristle-like hairs. He wore thick Coke bottle glasses with wide lenses and a smile that showed off way more gums than teeth. He asked if I wanted to see something really cool. I said no, but he just showed me anyway, lifting up a bird cage and setting it on the counter with a triumphant voila. Inside the cage was a tiny live elephant, about the size of a purse dog. It looked up at me and made a high-pitched toot noise before digging its miniature trunk into a saucer full of birdseed and shoveling it into its tiny, scared-dorable mouth. "Okay," I said. "Well, what do you think?" "About what?" "My creation," he exclaimed. "I don't know. It's pretty weird. I don't see what the point in having a baby elephant is." "It's not a baby. It's He closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. His smile disappeared. "Do you know how long it took me to create these things?" I didn't mean to hurt your feelings." No, it's fine. I don't know what I was thinking. All they do is eat and poop. They aren't good for farm labor. I tried cooking one, but they taste like meatballs made of gristle and cauliflower. You know what? Forget it." He scooped up the birdcage with both hands and turned to leave. As he walked out of the store, I noticed that he was wearing a red and white striped bathing suit with flip-flops. It wasn't until the next morning that the thought finally occurred to me that none of that was probably real. On Thursday, well, absolutely nothing strange occurred on Thursday. Sometimes that happens. O'Brien told me before my shift on Friday that they found what remained of Bo Cavanaugh, lying in the middle of the street a few miles away from the gas station. On the one hand, it was good news. It meant Bo probably won't try to kill me again. On the other hand, if his body is back, it means the portal to hell must have reopened. There wasn't too much left of him besides a scorched skeleton, and they had to identify him by his dental records. Officially, they were going to go with suicide again. I feel like the ones in charge aren't even trying with these cover-ups anymore. Saturday was a good day. Saturday was the day that I had been looking forward to for months. The doctors told me to take it easy, not to overdo it the first day. No cartwheels, no jumping, no sports for a little while. And maybe give it some time before I go back to driving a car. I assured them that I wouldn't be doing any kind of physical activity if I could help it, and silently hoped that I wouldn't find it necessary to run from anyone, or anything, anytime soon. Rosa showed up to work about 15 minutes before her shift was supposed to start, with a giant smile on her face. "Okay," she exclaimed with more mirth than normal. "Come out and let me see it, you bipedal SOB." After all this time, I was back to walking like a normal human being again. More or less. When I came around the front of the counter, Rosa slammed me with a tight and completely unexpected hug that nearly knocked me over. Okay, wow. I didn't know we were on a hugging basis already. "Oh, shut up," she said as she detached to look at my leg. "I can't even remember. Which one is it again?" Before I could answer, Jerry appeared out of nowhere and tossed a construction paper card onto the counter next to us. "Y'all, sign this card I made for Mel." "You made Mel a card?" I asked. "That's so sweet," Rosa chimed in before picking it up and reading it out loud. "Hey Mel, sorry you got stabbed in the heart. Oh look, he drew a picture of it and everything." "Yeah," Jerry said. "I'm a really caring kind of guy." I could tell Jerry must have been in a particularly crafty mood lately. He was wearing a white t-shirt with the word, "My name is Jerry," written across the front. Well, I'm glad he's got a healthy hobby now. He cocked his head and asked me, "Did you get a haircut or something? You look taller." "Nope, I got rid of the crutches." "You used to have crutches?" "Yeah, Jerry, I used to have crutches. Now I have this thing." "Well, how good is it? Are you able to run and stuff? Can you dance?" "Well, I couldn't dance before, so no." Rosa asked with a smile, "You feel like going on a short walk, see how that bad boy handles?" I told her that I was still getting used to longer distances, and I didn't want to press my luck just yet. This was my first day with the prosthetic after all. I must admit, a month earlier, I had come to peace with the idea of never going anywhere without crutches again. So, like many things, the whole leg situation started bad, then gotten out of control, and before I knew it, it was too late. I didn't know all the technical terms, but my body forgot how to heal broken bones. I just had a few surgeries, then a few more, and then when it started to look like my leg was going to get better, I caught some antibacterial resistant superinfection, and the doctors decided that, yeah, it was time to quit throwing good money after bad and just say to hell with it. Turns out, if you ask nicely, they let you keep the removed body part once they're done. We held a Viking funeral for my amputated limb at the creek down the road from the station. Jerry loaded up a makeshift boat with a fireworks pyre soaked in kerosene, and we shot a Roman candle at it from the bridge, and the whole damn thing exploded in a fireball of glory and gratuitous gore. It was definitely one of the nicer funerals that I had been to. That was back in December, but now I had 4 limbs again, and it felt good. Saturday night, the man in the trench coat returned. He stood just on the other side of the doors, scratching the glass but refusing to actually come inside. I considered calling O'Brien to come and shoo him away, but I didn't want to bother her over something so trivial. Especially when, as much as I hate to admit it, I knew he probably wasn't even real to begin with. That had been my week leading up to this moment. So, what was it? Was it the continuance of the hallucinations that had left me in the sensation of presentiment? No. Whatever was bothering me had a stronger sense of immediacy to it. Was it life without crutches? Definitely not. Could it have something to do with all those people who died at the carnival? Nah, that was like a week ago. How is this possible? How could I lose memory of what was bothering me, but not the feeling of it being left behind? Jerry once told me about an idea he had to travel the country, visiting retirement homes and informing patients with severe Alzheimer's that they had won the lottery and their grandkids loved them, and that Matlock had been renewed for 10 more seasons. By his reasoning, the old fogies would be extremely happy and then immediately forget why, leaving him with no responsibility to follow through in anything while still making the world a better place. He pitched this idea to his church group, quote unquote, who agreed it would satisfy their mission of the happiness to suffering ratio in the world, but ultimately, they declined to foot the bill on the grounds that it was still a pretty stupid idea. But now, I was starting to think maybe he was onto something. I took another bite of my sandwich and pondered the situation. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I needed to put it away for a while and let my subconscious work it out for me. If it was really that bad, surely I would figure it out sooner or later. Until then, I'd be sitting here in this poorly lit, stuffy gas station, waiting for customers and eating this mediocre ham sandwich. The bread to meat proportion wasn't quite right. The lettuce was crisp, but the inner lining of the bread was coated in butter instead of mayonnaise, a decision I greatly supported. It was a little dry, and I could use a root beer or something to wash it. Holy fuck. Where did this sandwich come from? I stopped mid-chew and stared at the sandwich. I opened up my mouth and allowed the partially masticated concoction to fall onto the counter. Well, that was definitely it. The entire source of my misgivings. The sandwich. I did not make the sandwich. I did not bring the sandwich to work with me this morning. I don't have a car, and we don't sell the ingredients necessary to make a ham sandwich here at the gas station. Most troubling, I don't even remember when I started eating this thing, and by the time I realized what I was doing, it was already halfway gone. I poked it to make sure it wasn't just another hallucination. Is that even how hallucinations work? I should look that up. Focus. Okay, Jack, think. There's no way the sandwich just showed up out of nowhere, and you started eating it. That is not how sandwiches work. So I decided to play it safe, and I moved the sandwich into another room until I could figure out exactly what was going on. I instinctively leaned back for my crutches, only to experience momentary panic before remembering that they weren't there. Old habits die hard, I guess. For months, those crutches were like an extension of my being. Hell, they even stood in as makeshift weapons a handful of times. And now they were gone. I was almost gonna miss them. Yeah, almost. What I wasn't gonna miss were the perpetual bruises under my armpits, or all those affectionate nicknames from O'Brien. Crutches, Gimpy, Dumbass, or all the annoying stares. I stood up and admired how normal it felt. For someone with an odd number of limbs and fingers, it was comforting to know that the body can somehow find a way to feel symmetrical again. Anyway, what was I doing? I looked around the room trying to remember why I stood up in the first place. Oh, right, the sandwich. Damn, that thing was tricky. But I wasn't going to let it get the jump on me again. I put the sandwich under a bucket in the cooler. Then I stacked a few heavy boxes on top of it just to make sure it wasn't going anywhere. When I returned to the front of the store, there was something standing there, waiting for me. Something terrifying. And if I had the hiccups at that moment, they would have been cured. The figure was tall, lumbering, the top of his hood nearly touching the ceiling. In his left hand, he held a long black scythe made of dark knotted wood. The weapon alone was taller than me. His thin body covered in the floor-length black velvet robe. Where his hands protruded from the cloth, they were covered in gloves. His face was a dark void completely invisible under the hood. It was a rather cliché version of death. Definitely one of the more ominous presages to walk through these doors. Like, easily top 10 in the past month. I collected my nerves, taking comfort in the realization that it was probably just another vivid hallucination. But just in case it wasn't, I should make a decent attempt to be a good customer service representative. "Good morning," I said. "Can I help you with something?" The figure slowly turned and pointed its right hand at me and spoke. "Jack, I've come for you. It is time you shed this mortal coil." The voice was deep and menacing, like a grossly overweight Darth Vader. "Really?" "I'm afraid so." "Ah, that sucks." "Was it the sandwich?" "Yes, indeed it was the sandwich." "Damn it." Death turned his hand over to me. "Come, Jack. You've done well with your time on this planet. But now, we leave the Earth to the living." "Hang on," I said. "Don't I get to play chess or something?" "This isn't Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure," he snapped back. "I'm on a bit of a tight schedule here." The fact that he didn't make a deadline pun will haunt me forever. "Hey, I'm not trying to bother you or anything. I wasn't expecting to die so undramatically, you know? After everything I've been through, I thought for sure it'd be some kind of evil monster involved." "Yes, I'm aware of your history. I've been watching you for some time. You and I have been as two ships passing in the night, never close enough to connect before now." I looked around the store for my own dead body, hoping I wasn't face down in the mystery sandwich. When I couldn't see myself anywhere, I once again came up with this nagging feeling that something wasn't right. and I had just gotten rid of it. Hey, where's my body? This world is merely an in-between, an object outside of our 7 dimensions. In an effort to make your journey more palatable, I created this reality from your memories. You will not find anything here that doesn't already exist in your mind other than you and I. Isn't it other than you and me? What? Look, I don't mean to sound pedantic or anything, but if you're the literal incarnation of death, shouldn't you speak English perfectly? Like, where did you even learn how to speak? Why aren't you speaking Aramaic or Greek or something? Did you understand what I meant, Jack? Yeah? Then maybe stop being an asshole about it, okay? Sorry. Nobody likes a grammar Nazi, Jack. I said I was sorry. He still had his hand outstretched. I wasn't exactly eager or ready to go. He finally lowered his arm and turned to the door, saying, "It's time. I shall lead you to the other side, where you'll be reunited with the ones who have gone before you." Hang on, I said. I have so many questions for you. What's the deal with the glowworm that Rita ate? Who's the man in the trench coat? What happened to the shapeshifter? Death let out a long, annoyed sigh and said, Look, dude, I don't have the answer to any of that stuff, okay? I've got one job, take you to the other side. You can ask all your questions to whomever's over there, but we need to get moving. Do you have any idea how many people die every day? Literally hundreds, and I have to ferry every single one over to the other side. So can we please get on with it while we're still relatively fresh? He held the door open for me and I walked through, imagining how the others were going to take finding my corpse here at the gas station. It's not like they didn't have enough warning to prepare themselves, but still, it's going to suck. In this, my final moment connected to the only world I had ever known. The only thing I could think of was Rosa, Jerry, O'Brien. And then, before I could selfishly push those thoughts away, I remembered one other person. Her. I shuddered at the thought of her showing up at my funeral. I didn't even realize it, but I had stopped walking about 10 steps outside. Death put a warm hand on my shoulder and gently pushed me forward, and I turned to face him. I have another question. What? He bellowed. What's going to happen to the people I left behind? You should worry about the ones who already left. Tom, Carlos, Vanessa, every cute puppy that has ever died. They're all waiting for you on the other side. Wait, I said, looking up at his shadowy face. Carlos isn't dead. He's not. No, and that's really weird that you don't know that. It sort of puts everything you've said under a point of suspicion. Hey, look over there. Death said, pointing his sight at a peanut butter green, windowless van parked up next to the pumps, and the engine was still running. That's your chariot to the other side. My what? I asked. This entire reality is a sort of dreamscape in your mind, and your mind has chosen this vehicle as your vessel to cross into the netherworld. Why don't you get in the back and I'll drive? You may lay down and close your eyes. If it feels stuffy, feel free to take off your shirt. Right then, O'Brien's cruiser came peeling into the parking lot at lightning speed and came to a screeching stop just a few feet away. Oh shit, seriously? Death muttered to himself. What's going on? Is O'Brien dead too? She got out of the car and casually drew her weapon, then said, Hey Jack, what's going on here? Death stepped in between us and said, Jack, this woman really isn't Amelia O'Brien. She's a manifestation of your desire to remain chained to this place. You mustn't believe anything she says or you will be trapped here forever. Like a ghost? I asked. Precisely. Why didn't you tell me that was an option to start with? I'd love to be a ghost. O'Brien called out to me again. Jack, is everything fine over there? I tried calling the store, but the lines were down. Death shoved me forcefully to the vehicle and shouted, Shut up and get in the fucking van, Jack. Hey, yelled O'Brien. Death turned to her and said, What are you doing here, lady? Poking your nose around where it doesn't belong? Everything is going perfectly before you showed up. Mister, I'm gonna have to ask you to drop that stupid-ass weapon and step away from the scrawny cashier before I light you the fuck up. If this really wasn't O'Brien, it was a damn good facsimile. Death screamed, I'm not gonna let you ruin this, and then he raised his scythe and charged. O'Brien didn't flinch before discharging her taser, filling the Grim Reaper with 50,000 volts of neuromuscular incapacitation. He hit the ground and started flopping like an epileptic fish at a disco. Is that a friend of yours? O'Brien asked with a raised eyebrow. It slowly dawned on me that it probably wasn't the real Death. It turned out that the man in the elaborate Grim Reaper costume was just another overly obsessed fan of my blog that had tracked me down. His name was Greg Walton, and he had driven all the way here from California after stealing this outfit from a community theater in his hometown that he used for the Ghost of Christmas Future. Inside the van was duct tape, massage oil, and several notebooks filled with what I can only describe as erotic fan fiction about me and the other gas station employees. He even included a few comics and sketches, and some of them weren't too bad. O'Brien had driven out to the area to check on Jerry after a belligerent drunk dial. She was worried he might have overdosed on some new street drug called Coke Black. After finding him alive and stupid, she tried contacting me, only to find that somebody had cut the phone lines to the gas station. That's when she came and found Greg trying to trick me into the back of his dad's old Ford Ecoline. His actual intentions were anybody's guess, but I prefer not to think about it. We never did figure out where that sandwich came from, though. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this story, and also please consider buying the books, all 3 of them that are linked down below. After Halloween, I'm going to get started on this one, and I have a new series coming out from the same guy who wrote Restoration that I have to get working on too. But make sure you go support. Make sure you go show support to the author. It means the world to me and him that you're doing that, which he enjoys, and which I enjoy too. And I would like to thank all of the lovely patrons currently listed on screen right now. Dan R, Neophyte Games, Chaos X, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden MH, Ethan A, Daniel H, Maximilian Charles P, Go Cute Puppy LLC, Young Sykes, Dark Side of the Bear, Revenick, Paul T, Mr. Swiston, and Sarcastic B. Guys, thank you so much.